Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco, your personal financial quarterback. Whether you've had years of success in your business or are just starting out, DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family and guide you toward the fulfillment of that goal. As they say, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your virtual family office. Now, on to the show.
Hello and welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco. Hello, Matt. How are you?
Eric, if I was any better, I'd have to be twins.
Okay.
I knew you'd like that one.
I've never heard that before.
That was an old one I had, and I knew you would enjoy it. So
Absolutely. I don't know if I could take twins on this podcast. You guys would just
twin
constantly
me's,
be,
yes.
Yeah, twin yous. Oh man, that would be. I'd never get a word in edgewise.
Believe me, my boy feels the same way.
Oh man. Anyway, all right. So now that you've completely thrown me off my game, we are doing lessons from a virtual office, and we're on part 3, right?
Oh yes, and this is actually my favorite part.
Okay, well then it's going to be my favorite part too, because you and I think quite a bit alike. Can you kind of just remind the listeners what part 1 and part 2 were? Just so they can go back and listen if they're joining us for the first time.
Sure. So what we've been talking about is, with the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of businesses were forced to adapt their businesses to be able to continue to work. And it looks like we're going to be living under this new normal where we're going to have to learn and adopt new processes and systems. So what I've been doing in the series is sharing the lessons that I've learned over the last 6.5 years of working virtually, of the benefits and how you can put these lessons into practice. So just as a reminder to the audience, to hear the first 2 benefits that we talked about, which was about reducing overhead and giving yourself more flexibility, go back to episodes 10 and 12 of the podcast. But today, like I said, we're going to discuss the third benefit, and this one is really my favorite, and this is about creating more freedom for yourself.
Everybody likes a little bit more freedom, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's great. So how do we create more freedom?
Well, there's a number of ways to do it. And first, just to kind of review the strategy. When what I wanted to do in my practice, because I was kind of I was in a traditional financial service industry, kind of sitting behind a desk, having to answer to my branch manager saying how much revenue you're going to generate, and I was really looking to work closely with clients, kind of be this personal financial quarterback for them. And but I also came to the understanding that, if I could have a practice like that, I don't necessarily need to retire because I love what I do, but I want to have the freedom to be able to go visit my kids and my grandkids, my clients who are all over the country. And so I was looking at designing a business that would give me that freedom and flexibility to do the things that I wanted to do while still being able to serve my clients.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Just this morning, I was watching a video on a young woman who is a full-time traveler. Basically, she's got a Toyota 4Runner. She's got a beautiful trailer that she pulls behind her. It's small. She has a dog and a cat, which you can leave the cat at home. I'm not taking a cat with me. But that's okay. Everybody in the audience who's mad at me now that I don't like cats, I love dogs. Okay, I'm a dog guy. Anyway, But she travels full-time. Right. And she has her computer. She has a stand-up workstation within her little trailer there. And she's able to produce income and travel full-time. And she's been doing this for 3 years. Now, I don't know if your wife enjoys camping, and I know you got the kids right now, but is that something that you're thinking about maybe in the future? Maybe you could do some traveling, because then you could visit your clients in person around the country, travel and work from anywhere, because we have the technology.
Exactly. It's funny that you mentioned that, because that is one of my dreams, is to get an RV and just kind of hop in and go visit kids, grandkids, my clients, visit sites, and just basically be like a gypsy. My wife wants to live in a beach house in Maine. So I told her, I said, I'll drop you off. I'll stop back every 2 weeks for conjugal visits, which she was like, oh, I could live with that.
Well, whatever floats your guys' boat. Well, I guess there's not a boat involved. It's just an RV.
No, there's no boat involved. Yeah. But it is definitely something that I would love to be able to do. And it is actually in the plan, as we move forward, as far as my overall long-term lifestyle and business plan.
That's fantastic. Love that.
Right. So, but anyway, so with this third benefit of more freedom, I think there's two facets that are really important to it. And I think the first one is this idea of your customer and client base. And with more freedom, you now can expand and have an unlimited type of client base. Now, the challenge we have in traditional business is that you have physical restraints that are going to limit the number or types of clients that you can serve.
Mm-hmm.
If you do need to travel to see clients or customers, that can increase your cost tremendously. I mean, when you talk about airline fares, hotel rooms, again, if you are in a business where you have salespeople that have to go out, that's just additional cost to the company.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, travel expenses can be very huge. And then, I think the third challenge is that your systems may provide inefficiencies to optimize the business that you have. So again, if we're dealing with paper, we're dealing with traditional filing systems, those systems can, again, be somewhat inefficient to really optimize your business. So what I found is the solution is to really implement things like virtual meetings, which we talked about earlier in the previous podcast, and communication systems where you can reach clients, customers, and employees everywhere. Now, in the 6.5 years that I've been working virtually, I've been able to expand from a generally my own geographic area. I've had some clients that have moved and are in other states, but now I've been able to reach clients all over the country because I don't have to necessarily be there physically. So just for example, Eric, yesterday I had 5 Zoom meetings. Now I had a couple introductory calls that were out of that. Some of them were actual client meetings. But for the most part, I could reach people. These are people from all over the country. I talked to somebody from Bend, Oregon. Talked to another guy from Tallahassee. So having that virtual aspect, being able to do virtual meetings, whether it's via Zoom, whether it's Google Plus, I guess it's called now, Microsoft Teams. I mean, my son, who's been, he was trapped in Gainesville during COVID, and he finally just came up here because he was trapped in a 2-room apartment. So he came back up, but he had a job interview in Naples, Florida, that he did via Microsoft Teams. So these are all different aspects that business owners can incorporate to allow them to broaden their horizons and broaden their area that they can touch.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because my wife and I, we were in Washington State and we had applied for working with the company here in Nebraska. And through just a phone conversation, we did a phone interview to begin with, and then they ended up flying us out to do a in-person interview and all sorts of stuff that we did on location. Just put us in a hotel, had a driver for us, so on and so forth. I know that cost them money, right? I mean, and it's, you can't do every type of interview, over Zoom or over, Microsoft meetings or things, but I would say probably 90% of them you can, unless there's something really that you need to have somebody physically in front of you for certain reasons. There's certain interview styles that you need to do, but I'd say 90% of them, these days can be handled virtually, which expands any business's ability to hire people of good quality from anywhere.
That's exactly right. I was going to touch on that about, being able to get out, expand your breadth from an employee standpoint. So that's another great benefit to it. What's interesting, like the first step in my process, once, somebody is like, look, I want to talk to you. We schedule a 30-minute introductory call. I'd incorporated Zoom into my scheduling software, and I'm shocked how many people want to use Zoom. And I think a lot of it is for their benefit. They want to see me. They want to be able to read my body language. And I want to do the same with them.
Yes.
Because, the key is we want to see if there's some synergy and there's a fit that's there. But for me to have to travel to somebody or somebody to come to me to see a meeting can really start to put a barrier up for them.
Yeah.
So again, I think there's some tremendous benefits to virtual meetings and different communication systems that can allow us to kind of expand our horizons, but also be able to conduct business wherever we are.
Can I confess something, Matt?
Yeah, sure.
I'm lazy a lot of times.
Right.
Here's the thing, is that if you're an advisor, which you are, and you're saying, hey, let's have a meeting and, come on into my office. We'll, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I'm like, doggone it all. I don't want to
Right.
leave my house, right?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
I've got a lot going on. I'm rebuilding, part of my backyard. I've got another house that I'm working on. My time is just split in so many different directions, and I've got some grandkids that I really enjoy spending time with.
Right.
And you really don't want me to bring to your office because my 5-year-old grandson will break something. I love him to death, but he'll find something to break in your office. So, yeah, if I could just meet with you virtually,
Yeah.
I don't want to just meet on the phone because we've already done that. But to have
Right.
a video conference so I can see the person that potentially that I want to work with. I want to see how engaging they are.
Right.
And yes, I'd be more than happy to let them see me, and they can say, "Oh, good Lord, no, I don't want to work with him. I've seen him now."
Exactly.
Or they can say, "Oh, yeah, this guy's funny, and he's halfway decent looking. So yeah, I'll take him on as a client."
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think it's partially just admitting it. It's partially laziness. I don't want to go someplace for a meeting if I can do it from home.
Well, and again, and I think you hit the nail on the head too with some of the constraints, especially with children.
Yeah.
To give you an example, I had a client. He was a young physician. Wife was a stay-at-home mom. They had 2 young kids, and they were basically. I was just starting to do more of the virtual thing, and it was hard for them to get into the office anyway because trying to get babysitters. So I would go over to their house, but yet we would have kids climbing over. They wanted attention, and it was. So we ended up having to schedule meetings at like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And now they live almost an hour away from me. So that's me driving over for 8:30, 9 o'clock meeting. You go an hour, hour and a half. I wasn't getting home till 11:30. It was just a drag.
Yeah.
Now with virtual, I can have meetings with them at any time, and they can take 45 minutes and just say, "Kids, go down to the playroom."
Yep.
Or to the bonus room, whatever you want to call it. And so we can be much more efficient. Or I can do an 8:30 meeting when they're in bed, but it's not inconveniencing everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's so important. I had a way to get rid of salespeople that would come to my door, but at the same time, that would also make it so people like yourself may not want to come over to my house to do a meeting. I had a Great Dane and a Bull Mastiff at the same time.
Oh,
so
gosh, yes.
2 very large dogs that really
Right.
cleared out my driveway and my front porch from traveling salespeople.
Right.
But at the same
Exactly.
time, other people didn't necessarily want to come into the house because they were very intimidating dogs. They just
Oh,
love
I
you and
bet.
slobber like crazy, but still, yeah. So there's lots of different reasons not to go to somebody's house.
Right. Oh, I know. Believe me, if you can
Yeah.
avoid that, sometimes it's the best thing. It's the best thing. So, but anyway, so how I implemented it, again, it was utilizing virtual meetings, Zoom. Most of the time I use Zoom, or I have a virtual phone system called Ring Central. It's actually a voice over IP system,
Yep.
and that has a video meeting component to it. And that service, those type of services, kind of those voice over IP, are very nice because I basically on my phone, on my laptop, on my iPad, I have my phone system. I can fax,
Yep.
I can call, I can do video meetings, I can do team meetings if I need to. So there's a lot of, and I'm not putting a plug into Ring Central. There's a lot of great systems that are out there. That's just the one that I happen to use. But anyway, technology like that can really help us to kind of expand our breadth and our marketplace, and also give us the freedom to be able to go different places and still conduct business. The funny story, I had one time, I was just at the beach. We got back, about a week and a half ago, and we were out there, and I was out at the beach with my wife and kids. And my phone rings, and it's a client, and so I'm talking to him, and I had my iPad, and I'm kind of like doing some things, and he finally stops. He goes, "What's that noise?" I said, "Probably the waves." He's like, "Are you at the beach?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to bother you." He said, "It's not a big deal, dude. I got my stuff here." And we took care of his problem.
Yeah.
Again, that's a benefit because now I can still live the lifestyle. I can go on vacation, but my clients can still feel like they're being served, and I can still serve them.
Yeah. And here's the thing is that another quick story, Matt Halloran, I don't know if you remember that name. I know you do, but the audience won't necessarily know him, but he works
Right.
with our team, and he was a coach for many years, and he was coaching one of his clients. And he said, "Hey, hang on just a second, man. Hang on. Give me a second." And he was making some noises. He got back on the phone with his client. His client was like, "What was that?" He goes, "Oh, well, I had to take the fish off the hook." He was fly fishing as he was talking to him. He just happened to get a fish as they were chatting. He's like, "Man, that is so awesome. That is so great. I can't believe that you're fishing while we're talking." And I mean, you're doing your job. It's the same thing. I would love that. And, our response as coaches is like, if you want that, do that. And Matt,
Right.
I know that that's what you've been doing, and that's not necessarily fishing while you're talking to clients, but
No.
I mean, that's what we're talking about. You have that freedom.
Well, and that's true. And I think that gets to the second point that I wanted to talk about. One of the benefits of the more freedom, when you're able to implement these virtual strategies, you can become untrapped from your business.
Yeah.
And, what happens a lot of times is that, again, with brick and mortar, we're required to be at the business all the time because of either the investment or that we've got to pay the lease payment. We've got to pay the electric bills, all the utilities, those type of things. The second thing is that a lot of times employees may require some babysitting, as we call it, because they're just used to you being there.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is we never really establish any kind of leadership. And then again, when you do go away, and I just recently did a video that I posted on social media about this idea of renewal time, which I'm a big proponent of. My coach is really like, Matt, you got it. And I'm terrible at it, but that's why we scheduled a vacation to go away to the beach for a week. You need sometimes that time to just kind of refresh and rejuvenate.
Absolutely.
But a lot of business owners, like I was talking to one of my guys yesterday, and he's just like, I can only take about 2 days, and then I feel like I need to get back.
Yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way.
Exactly. But a lot of it's because there's challenges that you feel like you need to address. I give you an example. My dad was an attorney, and we took one vacation a year as a kid. We go to Avalon, New Jersey for 2 weeks. Okay. And he needed that just to kind of decompress and unwind because he was a litigator. And so it was very high stress.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was he would come back. I remember we'd pull in and he would just, we would unload the car. He would hop back in the car and go back down to the office for a couple hours because he had to get through all the mail. Again, this was in the snail mail days, but all the mail that's there.
Yep.
That was down there at the office. These are challenges. And sometimes business owners say, I don't want to have to deal with that. That's stress. So but yet they're trapped. Again, in a virtual office or a virtual setting, you could have access. Like, I get up before anybody else, and I have my morning ritual where I do my morning prayer, and then I read through my my quarterly game plan and business plan, and try to get good positive personal development stuff in. And then I would just go and look through my email and just kind of scan through it. Here's what I need, trash anything I didn't. And I was able to do that every day. And it wasn't a big deal because I was doing it in the morning when everybody was asleep, but I was able to keep up with it. But again, because I was working virtually, I have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
So again, you don't have to feel trapped. So I think, a couple of the solutions, again, outside of just implementing the technologies that we had, I think one of the key things, and I find this with a lot of my business owner clients, is what I'm trying to do, and I talked about in a previous episode, kind of the process and this helping them to create a vision for their families, but also their business. But part of that vision has to be part of a culture that they want to develop. And we want to develop a culture of leadership, not only within the family, but also within the business, and begin to enable employees to solve the problems so that we don't always have to be there. And I think when you're able to create this culture of leadership, progress your organization or your business, you can 10 times what you're able to do, again, when you have leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that especially in this day and age with the whole COVID thing and everything that we've been through, I'm hoping that business owners are beginning to see that working virtually is going to make the cream rise to the top. Meaning that if you look at the math of it, let's just really be honest and look at the math. If you have somebody coming into the office 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for their 40 hours, are they doing 8 hours worth of work? And I'm going to say it's not their fault if they're not, right?
Right.
A lot of times because they may not have 8 hours worth of work. But let's see what's happened to really, truly good employees in this time that they're working virtually. If they're able to accomplish everything that they would normally accomplish during their 8-hour day, if they can get that done in 5 hours, that gives them more time to work on their home, be with their family, do things that they want to do within their own home life or structure, but they're getting more accomplished for the business in that shorter amount of time, which means they will want to fulfill that 8 hours at some point, so we can continue to give them more, or the business can actually grow faster because of the fact that we now realize, shoot, they didn't have 8 hours worth of work, and they really are go-getters. They're really, like I said, the cream is rising to the top with good employees. They're able to take on more and say, bring it, right? I got more time. Let's do this. But because they don't have that constraint, and they're more motivated to get to do something quicker, especially since they don't have a commute.
Right.
We're seeing that a lot.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. You know, it's interesting. I have, I have a house full of millennials here, and the millennials are a misunderstood generation, and they get a bad rap. And a lot of it is you have to kind of understand how they think. And I tell my clients, my business owner clients, this because the biggest challenge that they have is trying to find, they say finding good employees.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's the paradigm that they're looking at, and they don't understand this morning. Well, doesn't he want to produce? Doesn't he want to make the most amount of money? And in some cases, no, they want flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
They want some lifestyle. It's about, hey, I want to be able to work from home, and I'll get your 8 hours in, but I might be getting it in at 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Is that a bad thing? If you've got the best person for a job, does it really matter that they're there from 9 to 5?
Exactly.
So, and again, but it's starting to get even, these business owners and professionals to understand, you know what, sometimes we got to get outside our own heads and start to see the world from a broader stroke.
Yeah.
And then, again, like I said, there's plenty of millennials out there that would be top employees, but they think and their motivations are different. So now we've got to just adapt our methods to how they think.
Yeah, it's creating that culture that you're talking about. You're spot on with that.
Right.
You couldn't be more right, because bottom line is businesses still need to run on deadlines. But that's the beauty of it. Like you said, if you give somebody a deadline, whether they're a millennial or whether they're whatever age they are, if they're meeting that deadline, that's all that matters. That's what you're looking for. That's what is being rewarded. So if you say this is due by Friday at noon, it doesn't matter. Like you said, if they're working on it Wednesday at 3 a.m. and then Thursday at 2 a.m. and then Friday it's in by 9 a.m., well, shoot, they made the deadline, no problem. There's just no reason that, so many get stuck in that mindset. Well, these are your work hours. This is when I should be seeing production from you.
Right. Exactly.
Really?
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. And it's interesting as we're talking about this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do a whole podcast just on developing culture within a business. Which
that would be.
I think we're going to do that.
I think we should. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, so anyway, I don't want to be, I don't want, I want to save some of the nuggets here. So
yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
I'll kind of move forward. But anyway, I think, again, another solution being on track, because with technology, you can still stay connected to the business even when you're away. So, we've already kind of touched on that. So, again, I think the big benefits are, again, you can allow employees to start solving challenges that arise, which empowers them and helps to give you freedom. It also gives you the freedom to do things that you want to do without worrying about being away from the business, like what we talked about.
Exactly.
Hey, I'd like to have an RV and just, kind of travel the country and, see my clients and my kids and everybody out there and see, different parts of the country, but still be able to conduct business. We can do that. So again, how did I implement it? Again, using virtual systems, filing, video, virtual meetings, virtual phone system, and these are systems that I can access anywhere virtually. Yeah. So that's the beauty of all of it.
Yep, absolutely. And one last word on the employee thing, and this will probably be part of a future conversation for sure. But for everybody listening to this, if you can imagine eliminating a rent or a lease payment, eliminating the electricity costs at a location, eliminating the internet costs at a location, how much would that save on a monthly basis for a business? And I would say probably anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000, depending on the size of the business, right?
Right.
So if you had an extra $2,000 to $5,000 per month that you didn't have to spend, how much of that could you redirect toward a great employee or a couple great employees to pay them well enough or so well that they are committed, working hard, and you can trust them so that you can do exactly what you were talking about, Matt. Take a vacation, be away from the business for a week, and not have to worry about how it's being run because you've got well-paid employees that you're able to pay more now that you don't have that brick and mortar. Man, I mean, that's a game changer, right?
Oh, definitely. And I think that's where the trend is going to be.
Yeah.
And I've been talking with a number of guys I know that own commercial real estate, and they're trying to figure out, how are we going to adapt? How are we going to fill this space? Because a lot of companies are starting to realize, hey, we don't need all this.
Yeah.
And it's all just coming off the bottom line. And now, when you eliminate all that rent, all those utility payments, now you can pay employees more. You can find better people. It really just it opens up all the horizons for them.
Absolutely. All right. I know we're running low on time. Do you have any closing thoughts for today's podcast?
Well, again, I think a lot of this, when you look through the process that I'm kind of following here with the virtual office, that's enabled me to kind of create my processes that I follow. So I want to encourage everybody to download my white paper, the top 5 things to consider for a more prosperous business and a less stressful life. And you can go to my website at DiFrancesco.com. But the thing I want you to do is, if you download it, review the first consideration when beginning, which is about beginning to formulate a vision for what you want your life and business to look like. That was the initial step that my coach got me to do, to say, if retirement wasn't an option, how would your life and business be different? And it revolutionized how I started to think about my business and how to think about other businesses too. And I posed this question to many of my clients, especially when we're in those initial family meetings and those family governance sessions, to get them to think, all right, what would we want our lives to look like if we couldn't step away? Again, it'll open up the horizons.
Yeah, so interesting. Matt, and I'm going to challenge the audience for one more thing. As you go through that paper, as you begin to read through it, I would love for you to write down a couple questions and that you have about this, about the paper in general, about your thoughts that you have, or just questions for Matt, and email them to him. So can you just give your email address real quick so they can email you some questions? Because I would love to do a Q&A on future podcasts. When you get questions coming in, I want to take a little bit of time on a podcast and say, okay, we've got some questions from some of our listeners. Let's answer those and cover those.
That would be great. So the email is very simple. It is Matt, MATT, at DiFrancesco.com. So it's Matt at DiFrancesco, DIFRAN, F as in Franco, C as in Charlie.com.
Fantastic. Again, thank you so much for your time today, Matt.
No problem. It's always a pleasure, Eric.
Always. And the last thank you goes to you, the listening audience. Thank you for tuning in and listening to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, please click the subscribe now button below. This way, when Matt comes out with a new podcast, it'll show up directly on your listening device. This makes it much easier to share these podcasts with your friends and family. Again, thank you so much for listening today. For everyone at DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office, this is Eric Johnson reminding you to live your best day every day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investment, legal, or tax advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or another qualified professional with any questions you may have regarding your business or personal planning. DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC, doing business as DiFrancesco Virtual Family Office, is a registered investment advisor. Registration with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or any state securities authority does not imply a certain level of skill or training.